Hello, dear friends of Love for Volleyball, Amor por Voleibol. I'm pleased and honored today to be able to speak with one ex-volleyball player from the USA national team, Olympic player, also fantastic and one of the best beach volleyball players of the world. He was inducted in the class of 2018 in the Beach Volleyball Hall of Fame. I mean Mike Lambert, who is kindly speaking with me today. How are you, Mike?
Hey, great to be here, Alfredo. Thank you for the invitation. I'm doing very well. Thank you.
Fantastic, excellent. And Mike, I wanted to start this conversation asking you when, why, and where did you start playing volleyball?
Yeah, I grew up in the United States in the islands of Hawaii. So turns out there's a lot of international volleyball players that come from Hawaii. We kind of have this unique thing. So I feel like I'm a part of that heritage. Why is Hawaii so good at volleyball? I'm not sure. Maybe that's something we can dig into later. But yeah, I started there. I think I was just a young kid, got into the sport following the University of Hawaii. So watching both the women's teams and the men's team in college compete. And that just kind of, created this love for the game and just pursued it from there. So yeah, that's how it all began.
Fantastic. It's interesting what you're saying about Hawaii. Hawaii has many good players, many good teams. It has something special with volleyball. It's great to know. And when you start to play volleyball, did you have, for example, some model or some super player that you wanted to emulate, or from whom you were inspired, or not?
Oh yeah, for sure. So I grew up in, I was in high school during the 1990s. So obviously a big fan of the Team USA, Steve Timmons, Karch Kiraly, Craig Buck, Jeff Stork, all of those great players. I had watched them during the Olympics, etc. And so, Karch was our idol for just about every US volleyball player at the time, just because of how much he accomplished and what an amazing player and competitor and all that. So that was my inspiration. And then, from watching some of the international games, it's funny. So I grew up with another volleyball player, Stein Metzger, who went on to be a great beach volleyball player himself. And when we were in high school, we used to pretend to be USA versus Italy. And he would, Stein's kind of a funny guy, so he would scream out the names, Cantagalli, Zorzi. And we'd have fun just kind of pretending to be, these greats of the volleyball world, and on our little island in Hawaii playing beach volleyball and indoor volleyball. It's pretty good times.
Fantastic story. And how was your story as a young player? You played in college, you played at school. When did you start maybe thinking that volleyball could be a part of your, an important part of your life?
Yeah, I didn't really think it was going to be an important part of my life. I think maybe for my fortune, it was, in the U.S. high school system, you the 4 years, like the first 2 years of high school, I was quite short. So I was always in the back row, passing and playing defense and working on that side of my game. And then I started to have a pretty big growth spurt. And I was playing a middle blocker at the time in high school, which taught me a lot of skills on how to block and, footwork and all that kind of stuff. And then I eventually grew to be 6'6", 197, almost 2 meters. And so by the time I was really maturing into my junior and senior year, I'd grown into this bigger body, but I still had the skills of the back row player and the front row player. So I was pretty well-rounded, and I think that's what, kind of opened up doors to go play in college. Was there weren't that many guys that were my height that could play on the outside and play defense and block and do all the kind of things. So it was, 6'6" back then was tall. I know that's not so tall anymore, but back then it was. To be, on the outside playing 6'6", you're one of the tallest ones.
Exactly. Today, 6'6" is normal or almost a short player.
Yeah, I would feel undersized in today's game. Yeah, exactly. I would feel undersized at 6'6". Even though I have long arms, I mean, I would rather be 6'8".
Imagine that. No, today volleyball has changed so much. And your youth, when were you picked up by the national team? How was this story in your life?
Yeah, so I had done some of the summer stuff in college there were always some kind of junior national camps, etc., to just give all the young players exposure. And I think the big event, which really kind of launched my career, I would say, would be when I finished my junior year in college at Stanford University, and most of the players, my age or college players, were going that summer to play in the World University Games. So that was the big, if you weren't on the national team, you were on the B team or the junior team, and you were playing in these types of events. But they had actually Fred Sturm, the national team coach, had called me up and said, "Hey, we'd like to invite you to train with the national team, with the first team. Maybe you'll have a chance to make the Olympics in '96. You'll have to stop school for 1 year. They call it a red shirt. So it's a term they use in college, where you pause your college collegiate career and you stop studying and you go dedicate to whatever you're doing." So I kind of took that chance. I thought it was an amazing opportunity. I wasn't going to say no. I mean, there was no guarantee I would make the Olympic team, but it was certainly worth a shot. Why not, right? When you're young. So that was, that really kind of, in college in the U.S., you're used to playing against, maybe when you're a freshman, you're looking up at the seniors who are 4 years older, and you're like, wow, those guys are really good. They're bigger, they're stronger, and they're more mature. But when you become a senior, you're kind of just looking down. You're looking at other seniors, or you're looking at, oh, look at those skinny freshmen. I used to be one of those, but now I'm a senior, right? So I got to skip that, and then I went on to the national team, and I was playing with grown men, right? Yeah. So my teammates, how old was I? 21, 22. And, I'm playing with Bob Stavertlik. I'm playing with Jeff Stork. I'm playing with Brian Ivey. I'm playing with Scott Fortune, all these, Loy Ball,
yes.
all these legends, kind of older, and then the up and coming legends like Loy, etc. So it was like, holy smokes, these guys are really good. And so it was, I remember lots of battles. I was trying for the opposite position. And the other opposite was Tom Sorensen, another great U.S. player. And so I just remember just battling. Sometimes I'd be on the second team or I'd be on the first team, and we'd be switching spots. And it was just a battle every day, just competing at that high level, just in practice against all these greats. I mean, it really opened the eyes. I mean, I have some stories. I really remember, it's when, a part of warm up. This is a good story. So a part of warm up is you're warming up your arm, and then you go into palacopia or pepper, we call it in the US, where you're just kind of back and forth with your partner. And there were some times where I got to pepper with Bob Stavertlik, and he's like kind of the older veteran of the team. And I thought I went hard. I thought, like, I was proud of how I peppered. I would dive. I would go hard. I'd hit hard. It was not a relaxing thing. I would go hard. But Bob was an animal. That guy would he would just pepper you, boom, with bombs, but they would go right, pretty much right to you. So you always had a chance. And then he demanded that back, so I had to go then just crush, like, not just like, rat balls, but like really lay into him. And he was such a good defender that they would come up just perfectly right in the same spot every time. And I'm like, oh, I'll hit that one again. Oh, there it is. And then he would hit, and then he would just be full out. And he would go so hard that once the pepper session was over, you normally just get a quick water break. Then you go to hitting lines and you warm up and you're starting to really jump and spike. I would just rest. I was already sweaty. I didn't even need to do hitting lines. I would just try to recover so that in time for the first drill. But I was like, I don't even need to do hitting lines. I'm ready to go. So it was super amazing to play with really good setters like that. I also remember Jeff Stork. Man, that guy had he was kind of older on in his years, so his role was going to be a backup to Loy, who was kind of the up and coming, really good, player. But like, he had these skills where if he couldn't get there with his hands, he'd be running to go chase down someone who dug a ball. He had like this scoop bump set with his arms, and he just put the perfect spin on it, and it would get right in the perfect area every single time. And it was just like watching just how finely tuned these veterans were in their game was just, it was so different than the college game. I mean, there's way more polish. In the college, it's just kind of like big athletes, most of the guys they're like, they can jump and they can spike, but they only hit angle or seam, a little bit of line. But like at this level, it's like everyone has everything. And it was just, that really leveled up my game. I went back for my senior year. I did the Olympics. I made the Olympic team. We didn't have a great 96 Olympics, but I did get to go back to Stanford, finish my year. And I think at that, I felt like I was a pro at that point. I was like, okay, I've seen what the best can do. This was back in the time, this is 95, 96. So I would look at the younger players that were like my age, right? But from the other nations. And this is when like Giba was still like the young guy on the Brazil team. Samuel Papi was the younger guy. He was younger, maybe for Italy. And it was just like, I remember going to the World Cup. That was my first chance, and really seeing the world stage, on part of the USA team, and just being like, of course, the veterans from all these teams are amazing, but also seeing the guys that were my age or a little bit, close, it was just like, holy smokes, these guys are so good. Look at them, it was super cool to kind of just be around that and get to compete against them.
It's amazing what you're saying. I have some questions when you're speaking. The first one, I remember interviewing some of the women Peruvian team who won the silver medal in Seoul, and they told me that when they started, the older one and the Peruvian team, maybe because the coaches were Asian, Korean or Japanese, they have this kind of system of respect from to the older. So the young ones, they're showered at last. They take the bowls. They eat after the stars ate in the casinos. Do you have some kind of this system of respect for the older one, or it was, hey, I'm young, I want to play with you, all the legends, and I want to show you how I work, or how is it in the USA volleyball, especially in the national team?
Oh yeah, I was definitely the guy unloading the bus, loading the bus with all the bags, and everyone would, I would get the worst seat on the bus, and if we were always, after every practice, we had to get ice, so everyone could go ice their shoulder or their knees, and that was me always going and getting the ice no matter what it took. So yeah, I definitely had to do all of that. That it was kind of normal, just like, oh, here's the rookie, here's the young guy, hey, go do all these things for me, so you just took orders.
Yeah. It's part of the history of the place, and you mentioned it. Your experience in the Olympics. Why do you think that your team in Atlanta and Sydney couldn't reach what the teams before, or maybe the team with volleyball in Beijing achieved to win the gold? Why do you think that your both experience in Olympics were not so good?
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot that goes into what I've learned is that there's a lot that goes into winning a medal. So when I look back at, 96 specifically, that was the Netherlands who beat Italy in the finals.
Yes.
Yugoslavia beat, who did they beat for bronze? I can't remember who they beat for bronze. Maybe Brazil, I'm not sure. But the Netherlands team, they were Van der Meulen was their big opposite. They had Bas van der Goor. They had maybe it's Verber at the time, and they're really good setter. I can't remember that guy's name right now, but he was a great. Yes, yeah, exactly. He was great. Those guys were all kind of, they were similar age, and they were coming into their prime, right?
Yes.
Let's see. And the Italian team, they had lots of veterans all come, in their prime, just, etc. Our team was a mix of some older, we had like a Scott Fortune, Bob Stavertlik. And then we had some guys that were, then we had Lloyd, we had Brian Ivey, yes. we had me, we had some other guys. So we were kind of a mix of, it was like the guys that won 84, 88, 92, and then they were kind of past their prime and the young guys coming up. So it probably wasn't our time per se, just because people that were important on the team just didn't have enough experience yet. And, Jeff Nygaard was a middle blocker, that was getting lots of playing time. And so we were maybe hoping for a bronze, but it really probably wasn't our time, right? I mean, there's these other teams that were on, had put in more time, etc. So that was, nonetheless, we had lost some games that we probably should have won, and we could have at least gotten to the elimination round to see what we could have done. But so it was disappointing nonetheless. I think we all hoped that we would have done better. So and then I guess I'll fast forward real quick and touch on 2000. We actually didn't even win a set in the pool play, so we didn't advance at all. And then the year before, in 1999, we had gotten fourth in the World Cup. We were beating Brazil, we were beating Cuba, we were starting to beat teams. So that one was more, that one kind of burns, because I think we could have for sure done better. We were a better team than the result that we got. I certainly didn't play that great then. We had some injuries on the team that were, it just kind of, it almost seemed like we were in a sprint to get as good as we could as a team in 99. And, maybe the team together trained a little too hard and we were a little bit broken and just peaked at the wrong time. We peaked a little bit earlier. So I don't know. It's hard to say.
Yes. No,
looking back, everyone.
Absolutely. I saw you playing for the first time in the one American Cup in '98. And this time we didn't have internet, so we saw this in a video cassette, VHS, and I saw this team that you're saying, and I was very surprised, especially why a so big guy as you play outside as a outside hitter. And this time the outside hitter were not so tall as you, but I was very surprised with the team, with Lloyd Ball, with you, and with the Sorensen. So it's amazing to see, and as you're saying, in the Brazilian team were Giva, all the stars, Nalbert, Mauricio, and Argentina was Milenko. Yeah. There were so many great players. Also the Cuban team. It was a very pretty time for volleyball. And later you played also professional in Italy, and you played against Sorsi, Cantagalli, all this guy. How was this experience for you to play in one of the best volleyball leagues in the world?
Oh, it was amazing. I loved it. I loved playing in Italy so much that I married an Italian lady, and I actually live in Italy right now. So it's my second home for sure. But it was a great time. The Serie A Uno was very strong. All the best players in the world were there. So the level was very high. I think, I knew the guys from that played on different national teams. So when I'd see them on the court, I kind of, you see them from playing against them in the summer at the big events, etc. But it was also the people that you don't see that maybe aren't on the national team, but they're professionals. And you're just like, how's this guy, I know he's, 6'8", but he's not that in shape, and he's smoking cigarettes, but he could just side out all day long. It's like, you have all these players that are just so good, and you kind of don't know why they can do what they do, but they're just so crafty. There's one guy, he was on the national team, and he was one of my first teammates. He was a Bulgarian guy opposite Gavrilov, and he wasn't oversized for an opposite at all. He was maybe my height, but pretty skinny, not like Ganev.
Ganev.
Yeah, yes. Ganev was the big beast. He's kind of more what you think of the traditional opposite, just the guy you throw the ball up and he's just gonna crush it, right? This guy was a lot more finesse, but he had a wrist where it didn't matter if he had even if he had a 3-man block up on a back row set, he just knew he could get it. Never looked like, and he could just get it around the block all the time, and he would score points, and he would frustrate everybody because he didn't look like this gnarly physical specimen, but he just had this very technical game. And so there were a lot of guys that were like that, where you're like, oh my God, he's just, they totally deserve to be on the court, and they're doing everything they need to do, even though they don't, physically look all that impressive. So the league is good because you have those international guys. All the Italian guys are really good. And then you have these other international guys that are not on the national team, but are playing at a high level. So together you have this just amazing, where, pretty much you got to bring your game, or else you're going to lose, right? You can't make any assumptions that you're going to win.
And to be a professional player of any sport, how was it for you? Because in many countries, for example, in my country, Chile, to be a volleyball professional player is very, very uncertain. If we have so few volleyball players who lives from volleyball. How was it for you to that your work was actually play volleyball? How was it for you? Was it easy? Was it fun? Was it very hard? What was your story as a professional player in Italy?
Yeah, I mean, I guess I always had some certainty that I could play somewhere just because I was now establishing myself as a national team player. So once you're on the national team, and if you're getting playing time or you're starting on the national team, you know you're going to get a contract overseas, right? Because you just have that visibility. There's a different path where people who are really good, who aren't on the national team, they don't get the visibility. They deserve to play somewhere, but it's hard to get picked up by a team, or hard for a team to trust, okay, I think this guy is going to be worth giving him a contract, right? So that's like, I didn't have to fight that or play that as much or struggle like a lot of other guys do, because I was fortunate enough to have that early kind of primetime experience with the national team. But yeah, nonetheless, you're still young. I was 23 when I first went to Italy for the first time, and living overseas in a different country where you don't speak the language and you got to take care of yourself. It gets lonely, right? Because the Italians are very welcoming, and they put you into the family, but nonetheless, you're there for, 8 months, just kind of, away from home. And, so you grow a lot, you have to listen. You can't talk as much as you used to because you don't understand. And it makes you more worldly in a sense where when you travel the world and you get into outside your comfort zone, that's when you really grow as a person. So there's the volleyball journey where you're getting better, etc. But there's also like the personal growth you got to learn a new language. You got to get to relate to different people from different cultures. And so your worldview expands and you really mature as a person. So that was also really good. It's tough though. Like I know every other player who's playing in a pro league, and then playing on the national team. It's like it's a privilege to be there. It's also hard, right? Physically, because you have it's the club season. You have an objective, the coach, the team, the squad, everyone's trying to win, get to a certain place. So you're kind of like, you're not like pacing yourself. You're going hard, right, to go win this thing. And then as soon as that season's over, you've got maybe a week or two off, and then now you got the national team coach, and then you have different team goals, and you're trying to do something. So you don't really have this season where you get to build back up. Maybe not play as much, not jump as much, maybe be in the weight room the whole time and just getting ready for the next season, etc. So you can burn out because you're going hard all the time, and that's just part of it. Everyone wants to be on the national team, but I think people are smarter now to take care of themselves so that they can last and not like be declining. They need to be staying at the same strength level or getting stronger. You have to kind of build that in, but it's hard. And then I guess the other thing I remember is, again, you're 23, 24, and you're getting your first money at now you've got like some money in the bank because you just played for a team, and then you've got like a week off, and it's like, you want to go and you're young, you want to go do all the fun things that all your friends are doing, but you only have that short little week, and then you got to be back in the gym and it's all serious again. So it was like years and years. I missed all my friends' weddings. I missed a lot of I feel like I missed a lot of fun stuff because you got to be so committed. But looking back now, it was just a privilege to have been on that path.
Absolutely. And when did you start thinking, or maybe it was naturally for you, about the transitioning to play with beach volleyball? Because I saw many great players from the United States, from Brazil, who ended their career in indoor volleyball and started to play at the beach tour. How was it for you? Do you thought about this when you're playing in the national team, or it was something natural for you?
Yeah, I guess it was pretty natural. I'd always had that in my mind that I wanted to play beach volleyball. I think that's part of growing up in Hawaii. I played a lot of beach volleyball when I was young. Yeah. So it came to the point where, okay, I'll just do the club indoor volleyball stuff, and then the summers I'm not going to do national team. I'm just going to go start, playing some tournaments and maybe go on a surf trip or have some fun, etc. And so that it was a nice entry into there. And then I think I benefited from the rule change from the big court to the small court.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden it became very valuable to have some guy at the net who could block, right? Because now the hitters don't have as much room. So the importance of being a good blocker and having a good defender, I mean, you can be more impactful as a blocker, whereas before on the bigger court, little guys could just shoot and dink and do shots, and you could never really block them. So it kind of worked out perfectly because I got to eventually play with Karch Kiraly, right? He was still winning tournaments, maybe just past his prime, but still like really in it. And he was like the perfect partner for him, and I was likely the perfect partner for he was a perfect partner for me, and I was the perfect partner for him. And so it was just it was like perfect timing, right, with all of that. So every team, they're like, Karch, he's 40 years old, I'm going to serve him every single ball. They would just serve Karch every single time, which he's also one of the best passers. Yes. So my job was just to be a decent setter, and I think a lot of indoor players, when they go play beach, one thing that they maybe haven't perfected is how to hand set on the beach, because it's a different motion, it's a different way to do it. So, but when you have a perfect pass every time from a guy like Karch, it's like, oh, you just like 3 steps, there it is. I'll give him that set, the one he likes, and then he goes and just does his thing. And now and then they would serve me, but that was also to my advantage because I'm fresh off hitting against 3-man 7-foot Russians. Now I just have one blocker. Yeah, sure, the court's smaller, but like I'm just gonna gagoosh or I'm gonna gagoosh. It was like easy, right? Because you just have one blocker, and you're used to playing against very technical, very good blocks. So I found that really easy. So like we kind of had the side out thing figured out, and then we would score points because we would just serve, and I'd go, and I knew I could. That was probably one of the things I was really good at in indoor that translated well to the beach, was I was pretty good on the blocking. Okay. So I could, if they were going to hit, eventually, if they were a player that liked to hit, I would eventually figure them out and eventually get my 1 or 2 blocks per game. And then I got behind me a guy like Karch, who's just like also one of the best defenders. So it was probably
the perfect team.
We were just it was in a way we were just a really good, difficult matchup for anyone, and we played together good. So yeah, it was super fun. I will say, like, if I may go on just talking about Karch, right? Like everyone knows, okay, he's been great. He's got the 3 gold medals, 2 indoor, 1 on the beach. Like what makes him so special? Because he's not, he was physically pretty, in his prime, he was 6'2", right? He's like 6'2", 6'3". He had a really good jump, but when I was playing with him, that wasn't his forte. It was different things. But what really impressed upon me, because I got to be around it, like right next to someone like him, was just how mentally tough he was.
Yes,
he was. And then I would describe this as, and I'm coming from the national team. I've been playing with people at a high level. Like I feel like I know what the highest level is, but I got to see him, and it was like, oh, he's actually up here. He's like up here, because no matter what, it could be windy, rainy, whatever. We're playing against, we're practicing or playing against a really good team or like a not a really good team. He had his level here. He demanded his level to be here of himself. He would not let whatever was around him be like, oh, I could probably just take it down and not be in 5th gear. I'll be in 4th gear. He was always just like, here's my standard. I'm playing to the standard no matter what. I don't care what the conditions are, etc. And then when you're around someone like that, it just becomes contagious. So then all of a sudden I'm like, okay, well, if it's windy and rainy and Karch doesn't care, I'm not going to care. It's like, I think that was the thing I would take away most of playing with someone like that, is like, wow, there are some people that just are up there, and they will not let go. They will not give an inch. And that's why they're the great, the greats.
Absolutely. And I think Karch gave so much hope for players like me. I'm sure too, that it's possible to play against the biggest guys, not being over 6'2", 6'3", I don't know. But what you're saying is absolutely true. His mental strength is amazing. We saw him play against the Russian, the Bulgarian, the best teams in the world. And once he told me, because I have the great opportunity also to interview him, that he said some day, but I don't remember when or where, that he was inspired by the Brazilian team from Bernard Rachman, Montanaro. They were also shorter than Karch. But he said that you don't have to be tall to be a great player, a big player. So he was a monster, and absolutely, I think playing beach with you, it must have been I don't know how to say it, a monster team playing on the beach, and you won many tournaments. You won many prizes for you as a big blogger, the best blogger, the best player. How was it for you? You were a professional player in Italy. Now you are a professional beach volleyball player. Do you ever dreamt about this when you were young? Your family said, "Oh, what are you doing? It's like a dream come true," or it was something natural for you, for your family, to be one of the best in indoor and beach volleyball?
Oh, it was absolute dream, to just be like, oh, this is my job. I got to go. I think one of the things I enjoyed the most about the quote unquote, it being a job was practice. Especially in the beach volleyball days, it's a Tuesday at 9:00 and I'm setting up the lines at Huntington Beach on the sand. We get our workout in, we're all done. Okay, I'll go jump in the ocean, body surf for a little bit, come back in, take a shower, go get a sandwich, and I've been at the beach all day, and that's like, oh, I put a good day's work in today. Yeah, that was, it's like, wow, that's pretty cool. Yeah, think about that. And then go home, take a nap, wake up, and then maybe get on the yoga mat, foam roll, go work out, and then go you got to eat really good, get some good sleep. Yes. It's like, it's the best lifestyle ever, right? So, you get to fly around to different tournaments and compete and all that. And so, yeah, I really enjoyed it. What a ride!
Absolutely. And do you have some tournament, indoor and beach, that you remember the most? And maybe sometimes you play a tournament and you didn't win, but you play and you feel comfortable. Do you have some tournament or championship that you remember the most in both platforms?
Yeah, let's see. I would say, okay, starting with indoor. Yeah, I would say, probably like 1999. It was our national team. All the players had decided they weren't going to go overseas that winter. So this was between 99 and 2000. So we were all kind of together in Colorado Springs, really committed to trying to be the best that we could be. And we got to go play in the World Cup, and we hadn't proven that we could do anything at that point as a group. We hadn't really won anything together as a group. We beat Canada, great, but we hadn't beat any of the greats type of thing. And we went in, I remember, I think our first game was against Brazil, and we beat them, I think, in 5 sets. And it was like, okay, whoa, that's a good win. And we'd never, it's hard. It's really hard to beat Brazil. They're so talented, and once they get going, they're hard to stop, right? So at the time, it was the key to beating Brazil was you just need to not fold when they're just on full assault. You just need to kind of just stay in the game long enough, because they want to beat you down and get you down here, and then they can coast, right? Because that's kind of the style that they had. But we wouldn't go away. We would just kind of be there, and then things start to get a little nervous, and then we're kind of rising, and we were able to rise to the challenge there and beat them. So that was really good. We also beat Cuba, and they were a really good team at the time. So that was also a really good win. That was in 5 sets too. And then we smashed Italy 3-0, like just smashed them. And they were also really good. So it was like we got some really good wins under our belt in that World Cup. And then we lost in 5 against Russia, and they were also, really good. So it was like, okay, we're here. our problem was, but then we lost to Spain. We lost to some other team. It was like we proved that we could beat the greats, but we didn't prove that we could beat anyone all the time. Like we were still kind of young, like up and down type of thing. So it was just, I think, a good highlight for me to like, okay, we finally turned the tides. Next time I step on the court against any of these teams, I know I really have the confidence that I have a chance. And, unfortunate that we didn't turn that into something further down the line that, in the Olympic summer, but that was really cool. I mean, to kind of on one of your first questions, what does it take to do an Olympics? That team, that 2000 team, that we didn't do so good at all. Eventually, there were a lot of guys on that team that stuck around, and they did get their gold medal in 2008, right? So you had Loy, that was still there. You had Tom Hoff. You had Ryan Millar, that was still a middle. Reed he didn't make the 2000 team, but he probably could have. And so he was still he was crushing it. I think Riley Salmon was another guy, and then Clay Stanley, the opposite. So they, I think the lesson there is to win a gold medal, you have to have a group, and you probably take 2 or 3 quads to finally get the formula right before you're really ready. You can even look at the Yugoslavian team. They won the bronze in 96. Yeah. And in 2000, they won the gold, right? It's that same core of guys that kind of, came up together and really peaked together, and they were, in it together. So the Olympics, I think, is like, you have to think of it as arcs of quads of teams kind of growing up. And it's like, do they peak at when the Olympics hit, where are they in their range before they start to come down, right? It does take, there's guys on national teams that have been there for 4 Olympics, because it takes that long before you can really find the magic mix. And
like a marathon. Yes.
So anyway, that's just like a sidebar. But then I think going back to, me personally, highlights on the beach, I would say would be that I got to play, I think overarching theme would be that I got to play with Karch and win some tournaments with him. Childhood hero. He was the guy that we all wanted to be. I got to play with him. I got to see it for myself. And my first tournament that I ever won was with him, was the Manhattan Beach Open, which is like the biggest tournament, the most important, the most revered tournament you could win. And so to win my first tournament with Karch, I mean, that's what a story. And then the other thing would be I got to play with my childhood friend, the guy that I grew up with, this guy Stein Metzger. So, and then he and I connected, and we're 2 guys from Hawaii. We're little kids, and now that we're partnering up and we're winning tournaments together, that was amazing too. So I think thematically that would be what I cherish the most. And then some of the wins would be, I think twice. We once with Karch and once with Stein. Twice with Karch. We lost in the first round. So what that means is you have the winner bracket, losers bracket, right? So if you lose in the first round, you're in the losers bracket for the rest of the tournament, which means if you're in the winners bracket and you win, you hop 2 steps. Yeah. It's like, all of a sudden I'm in the quarterfinals. All of a sudden, whereas if you're in the losers bracket, you're just kind of you're inching along, and you have to play twice as many games. It's brutal. And, I guess 3 times then. We lost in the first round, and then slowly chipped away and got to the finals. Once in Arizona with Karch, and it was one of the best tournaments. We lost in the 3rd set in the final, but to have gotten to the final, where we just were in battle after battle. Some of the greatest games are in the losers bracket, where people aren't really paying attention. It's not on stadium court. It's one of the outside courts. But those are the games where you just see guys it's like the purest part of the sport. You're out there, no one's watching, but everyone's just it's do or die and that kind of thing. So I really, remember fondly on those kind of outside court struggles, etc. And then, one time with Stein, same thing, and we ended up winning the tournament. And that's so to do that, it's you feel terrible the next day. On Monday, you're just broken, but it's very, very, satisfying.
So interesting to know. And when did you start thinking again about retiring? Because as a player, as a professional player, maybe sometimes you don't have time to think, okay, this year or next year I will be retired, I will be doing this, I will work in this. Maybe sometimes I spoke with many players, they didn't have time to think about it because you're training, you're touring. Do you have some moment that maybe you talk with your wife or your family, you say, okay, I will play until this year, and next I will be doing this. Do you have some thought or remembering about this time when you're deciding this crucial moment in your life?
Yeah, well, life doesn't always go as planned. So I had a plan. My plan was, okay, as long as I'm getting to finals and winning tournaments, that means I can keep sponsors, because sponsors only want to sponsor you if you're making the finals.
Exactly.
or winning tournaments. And that's like, as a beach volleyball player, that's a significant portion of the money that you can earn is through sponsorships, right? And then the other is prize money. So my goal, my idea, my plan was, the summer I don't win a tournament, is the winter I'm going to go look for a job so that I can actually kind of have this transition. So I think what was the right idea. But unfortunately for me, it was an injury. I thought I had a knee. A knee was just kind of bugging me a little bit at the end of the season. So I went into the winter thinking, okay, I spoke with the surgeon. It looked like it was just going to be a routine surgery, and ended up not being routine because I had some cartilage damage. So from all the years of jumping, etc. And when you lose cartilage, it's like when you lose the tread of the rubber on your wheel, and like once you don't have that, it's kind of the kiss of death. And so it kind of like it hit all at once. It was more forced retirement than it was like voluntary retirement, and it was quite traumatic actually in a way, because I was playing with Stein. We were we thought we had a really good chance to go to Beijing as a team. We were in the middle of qualifying for that. This was like when Todd and Phil, Todd Rogers, Phil Dahlhauser were one team, Jake Gibb and Mike and Sean Rosenthal the other team, and it was Stein and I. We were kind of all trying to get the 2 spots, right? 3 of us going for 2 spots, and so that kind of went away, and it was like I feel bad because I left Stein hanging. He couldn't find a partner that late in the game to go to the Olympics. That was kind of a bummer to leave, to let your teammate down. And then I had to, all of a sudden it's like, okay, I can't even, it's not that I can't go to the Olympics, I mean that sucks, but I don't even have a job anymore. So I can't even jump, like I can't do anything. So it was like a shock to the system. This was like 2000, and then it was like 2008, 2009. The economy like took a huge dive. If you remember that, there was like a big, bubble with everything. And so it was like all the other ideas I had, like, oh, I know these guys in sports marketing from Visa, from Gatorade, from Oakley, they were like, none of those guys knew if they had a job. So they were going to, there's no way I could get a job working for them. So it was a really difficult time to like figure it out. So, but, eventually we did. And, so it was, I think I would have enjoyed playing some longer, been in the sport longer, but, I'm certainly, I got to play a long time. I still had a 10-year career, and, injuries are part of it. I mean, there's a lot of people that kind of get off track because of that. So I'm certainly not the first one to have taken that side road.
Yes. I know. And after this, what are you doing today, for example? Do you work in volleyball? You're still involved in sport, or it's nothing at all with sport?
Yeah, I'm just a fan of volleyball. I'll watch the games and, cheer on when I can. But I'm in a totally different world. I was in medical device sales for a while. I've been doing digital marketing for the last 7 years. So, which is allowing us to live in Italy. So as I was saying earlier, my wife's Italian. So we're kind of raising our 2 kids here in Italy. And, I guess I would be considered an expat, right? So living the Italian life, but,
kids
enjoying it, loving it.
And your kids love volleyball, for example? Do you want to play volleyball, or do they do something totally different?
Yeah, they started to play volleyball. Then my son was like, Dad, that was your sport. I'm more into soccer. So he got into soccer, and then he got into basketball. He played a little bit of volleyball, but kind of chose his own path. And then our daughter played a little bit, but then she didn't grow a ton. So she kind of was like more of a back row player, and then found other interests. So yeah. Okay.
It's amazing. And Mike, I could speak with you hours and hours, but I know we have some tasks to do, our jobs. I want to thank you again for your time, for your fantastic conversation. I really appreciate your motivation, your stories. It's amazing to know you. And I want to thank you and apologize for the changes of days and the hours. I don't know, but we could make it. For me, it's a great honor to be able to speak with you. And I want to send you from Chile a big hug for you, for your family, and invite you to keep in touch with me, because I love this game. I love the volleyball family, because even if you're from Hawaii, I know we have some uncommon. We love volleyball. We played volleyball in my youth, like in Chile. So I send you a big hug, the best wishes for your family, and thank you again for your time and your fantastic story in volleyball.
I appreciate it. Thanks for the invitation, and it was great to meet you and then have this conversation. Thanks, Alfredo.
Super.